Hi, it's Keith from the Evangelical Free Church, Stony Stratford, and we're continuing our series of short talks in the Gospel of Luke. And today we come to Luke chapter 21, verses 34 to 38. Now, we've been looking at what Jesus has been saying about the destruction of Jerusalem. It all started with the disciples admiring the temple as they were concluding their visit to it, and Jesus saying, well, take a good look, because in years to come, these buildings will be all torn down. So they ask a very natural question. Teacher, they asked, when will these things happen, and what will be the sign that they are about to take place? And so Jesus tells them about what will happen in the future, some of it in their lifetime. You've got to remember that this was a very traumatic event for them. For the Jews to lose the temple was literally like the end of the world. And so there's two layers to this prophecy. One that is speaking into their situation and what will happen in their lifetime. And another one that points to the future. Just recently, Tracy and I went to a concert to see Martin Turner. Perhaps that doesn't mean much to you, but if I mention the words Wishbone Ash, those of you who lived through the 70s and like a good guitar band certainly should remember them. Well, he was the bass player and the vocalist of Wishbone Ash, and really, after he left them, I could never get so interested. He, to me, was part of that classic group. And the concert was just great. I really loved it. One of the best concerts I've been to in ages. But the other thing was, Tracy had got a new mobile phone, and after we'd asked whether we could take pictures, they said yes, as long as it wasn't flash. I got to trying it out, and I pretty soon found that I could get some good wide shots of the band, but I could focus in and get a tight focus on people like Martin or the guitarist or the drummer or someone like that. And this is really what Jesus says as he concludes what he's got to say. Keep focused. Have a tight focus. And he encourages his disciples to take two things into the account. Now, one is a don't and the other is a do. The first is this: don't be distracted. Verse 34. Be careful, or your hearts will be weighed down with dissipation, drunkenness, and the anxieties of life. And that day will close on you unexpectedly, like a trap. In times of turmoil, in times of difficulty, it's very easy to get distracted by worldly things. And it's interesting, isn't it, that Jesus is saying this to the disciples. They've been with him, they've heard him teach, but they're not immune from this in any way. And so he goes on, verse 35. For it will come upon all those who live on the face of the whole earth. This is something that everyone is going to face. They were going to face the destruction of the temple. Jesus pairs that with his second coming. And some way or somehow, we're all going to stand before the judgment seat of Christ at some point. So don't be distracted. The second is the positive, do. What are they to do? Well, quite simply, they are to pray. Verse 36. Be always on watch and pray that you may be able to escape all that is about to happen, and that you may be able to stand before the Son of Man. Keep focused. How are you going to keep focused? Pray. Seek the Lord's direction in each and everything that you do. That is what they are told to do. Keep a tight focus on the Lord and his word. It's rather interesting, isn't it, that at the end of this little passage we note that Jesus was teaching in the temple each day, and a lot of people were coming to hear him. But this is interesting, isn't it? How many of those people were focused? Perhaps there was a sense in which people around Jerusalem were saying, oh, you've got to hear this itinerant preacher. You know, he's really something. He teaches like no other. But what effect did it have on them? Because we know these were literally the Passover week. This is just literally days before Jesus will be betrayed and go to the cross. How focused were those folk? The key thing is, of course, as we said, keep focused. There's a very interesting verse in the letter to the Philippians, Philippians chapter 2, Philippians chapter 2, Philippians chapter 2, verse 12 and 13. This is Paul writing to that church. Therefore, dear friends, as you have always obeyed, not only in my presence, but now much more in my absence, continue to work out your salvation with fear and trembling. For it is God who works in you to will and to act according to his good purpose. There's a phrase you sometimes hear, let go and let Christ. And there's a sense we have to do that. We do have to give up on the old things, the things that would now distract us from following Christ if we've made a commitment to him. But there's also a challenge. We are to work with him. We don't just sort of lay back and sort of see what happens. No, we are to look to the Lord in each and everything we do and to work with him. And the rather wonderful thing is that if we do that, it doesn't hinder God from doing his work within us. If we're all about self, it will. And actually that's the way to have a peaceable life, a life that's more contented, not an easy life, but one that has more confidence and contentment in times of difficulty. Thank you for listening. As usual, we like to give away a freebie. This is a great little book, Where is God When Things Go Wrong? And it's a great one to read in a world full of turmoil. Thanks so much for listening.